Hello there, everybody. This is KaneFan701. Today is a very special yet very sad day. As we all know, at this time of the year, from April 10th all the way to tonight, on April 14th, 1912, all the way through to the following day, on April 15th, today marks the 111th anniversary of the sinking of the RMS Titanic. And to mark the occasion for this, you can see that I'm wearing my captain attire for the occasion, including my Titanic Belfast captain cap I got, which was a decade ago. It's like I say, it is a very sad time of mourning, and of course, like I said before, I get very, very emotional at this time of the night because we all know it's coming. We can sense the disaster that would unfold, and I don't usually do these type of things as well, but I mean, when it comes to Titanic and everything else, it's a very sensitive thing. But at the moment, you know, I really get tensed up with emotion at this time of the night. Once you're a gamer, I actually have been improving my fanfic on a night to remember, but I'm not sure about the whole thing. But you can still find the improved variation of my character in there. I've been doing some new uploads on my recent ones to mark the event, and of course, at the moment, it's 21 hours and 19 at the moment. So we're getting very, very close. It's just gone past 9 o'clock about 19 minutes ago. So it's 9:19 p.m. at this time. So yeah, it's very, very tense moments. As you can tell, I am already feeling it already because we all know what's going to happen. For those of you who might be intriguing, you can always watch the Hope and Glory Titanic. There's some really cool new 3D animations that redo these fantastic reenactments of the actual sinking as in a real time lapse. It's really, really good. I mean, every time of this year, I usually tend to stay up to about roughly to 11:40 p.m. when the incident happens, all the way through to when Titanic finally hit the bottom at around roughly 2:30 in the morning, because that was the actual time the ship hit bottom. At the moment, what you can't see right now, I'm currently watching a couple of cool documentaries, which I've got on mute at the moment, which you can't hear, but I'm playing it right now. If anybody of you guys want to join in and try and get into the talking about the whole Titanic and having a good celebrationary, you can call me Captain Kane Fan tonight if you'd like to, just to have a little bit of a thumbs up. If you're more than intriguing to join in, be my guest, come on board. Okay, let's get a few people invited. Let's see if we can have some people to join in. Like I say, I do this every year. I mean, I couldn't stream last year because it was a bit personal, because the 110th anniversary was a very deep one. But like I said, a decade ago, I got this cap from Titanic Belfast from the museum, and I had my girlfriend with me at the time. It's really cool. When I first wore it, it barely fit me, so I had to put a bit of weight in me, and it worked. No, but I'm not sure actually. To be quite honest with you, Mayato 23 gamer, I've never actually used the animated real time one, but that one is really, really cool though. Although if that was it would be more like, the sinking of Titanic is more like in my fanfic, a hybrid of what we've seen in all the films, mostly from what we saw in 1953 and 1958, which was a night to remember. And a few bits from the 97 variation. It's like a hybrid sinking, except mine went down in one piece and not two, because mine's set in an alternate universe where the fact and fiction kind of blurred in together. Because mine was like an anime sequel. Yeah, Titanic did actually hit the iceberg on its maiden voyage. Yeah, it did. And it took 2 hours and 40 minutes to go under. Yeah, basically, that's right, Monty. You're catching up on my Titanic fanfic. It begins with a note to remember. Then we would fast forward to the events based on Clive Cussler's novel Raise the Titanic, again, except it's like, again, an alternate reality. And then we would go back to a bit of an origin storytelling about how the Titanic come to be and basically how my OC came to be as well. Listen, Monty, the 300-foot gash was said to be that was how long the length was. It didn't go all the way down. It wasn't like a continuous 300-foot gash, but it did open up about 5 compartments to 6 in Titanic. So that is kind of like a third of a way down, but it's not like a continuous slash along the starboard side. No. That's just what, that was how far it went. It wasn't like an opening of continuous. It was just like a small plate that popped and buckled, and that went down 300 feet. Like I said, God, that's what I mean. Boiler Room 6, that was there, of course. That's right, Monty. That's correct. Because in my version, Titanic appears intact, barely intact. Because in my version, she took a absolute battering to the ocean floor like it would in real time. Like I said, my fanfics are like a combination of reality history, but with a little fanfiction sliced in, as if it did. That's the whole thing about being creative. If any of you guys want to pop in, you can actually join in. I have left the link in here for you guys if you want to. So pop in if you want. Sorry about that popping, lads. I've got a funny pressure in me right here. It happens a lot when I'm talking. Like I said, it really is. Actually, I've just been watching the Anna and Chloe's new animation. They do this every time, improved animations and whatnot. It really is clever how they've done it. It's almost like they somehow managed to get the animation spot on. Despite all the stuff that we used to see growing up from our time, they finally get it correct and get the witnessing accounting exactly as it's supposed to be. That's basically how long it was until 2:30 in the morning. That's when Titanic finally hit the bottom. Basically, after plunging more than 2 miles out in just 10 minutes, because after splitting in half and just glowing all the way down. Oh my. So again, Montier, if you want to pop in, come and join in. Nothing's stopping you, pal. Be more than ready than just to chit chat with us. James, I can tell you're there first, mate. I can tell you're there. You just gotta be patient, pal. Oh yeah, I forgot. The Titanic Bell's next door. Hang on a second. Oops. Sorry, lads. That was just my glass thing falling over. Sorry about that. Just getting me drink, it broke. Much better. Yeah, all of us are aware that Titanic's disintegrating. If that's something we don't want to talk about, it's too painful. Oh, hey, Farquhar. If you want to come in, you can join in with us. I've left a link in here for you guys. Here you guys go. Listen, I mean, the less we think of Titanic disintegrating, as far as, if you want to ask me, as far as I'm concerned, its spirit will live on in all of us. Like, there's an old saying that I heard from an old Titanic documentary called Beyond Titanic. Um, Once it gets into your life, it never, never leaves. So, in a way, it's a part of your life forever. That's how I'd like to think. Indeed, yeah, 70 years since basically the first Hollywood of Titanic was in 1953. You're right. That was actually the first Hollywood debut of Titanic, you could say. And it was despite that had many many flaws. I mean, the model that portrayed itself in the film is still with us, which is good. Even in my fanfics, Titanic has all her three sisters in there. Just while I'm writing in my fanfics, you know, in my fanfics, she's still got all her three sisters in, except Olympic had the life that she had, and Titanic still sank in the war. But it's quite intriguing in how I would tell the story because, you know, actually, Farquhar, the first Titanic film was actually in 1912, a lost Titanic film called Safe on the Titanic. But the first sound film of Titanic actually happened in 1929, you know, just one year after the Flying Scotsman's 1928 film came out, which was having sounds, but it was still a silent film. Um, So yeah, Titanic had its first sound in 1929, except that film was called Atlantic because many of the survivors were still around and they didn't want to be remembered of the disaster. So yeah, Atlantic was the first quote unquote sound Titanic film, except yeah, they had to change the ship's real name to a fictional name instead. Hey, Michael Brown, nice to see you. Long time no see. Basically, Britannic is the twin sister of Titanic. Olympic did start off as a twin, except when Titanic got modified, they were no longer identical twins. So, yep, that's the one, Montreal. That's the one. Disaster in the Atlantic. But it was also in other copies. It was also dubbed sinking in the Atlantic in other countries too. Creeper Boy 90, you're having no connection problems here, mate. I mean, you might need to swap round.
Just taking you
Okay, man. It's all right.
Titanic week, is it?
It is the first month. Thanks. I hope you didn't mind. I do this every year as an honor of respect. Yeah, this cap is 10 years old now. Okay, yeah, it's Titanic Day. That's why it's called everybody know. So that's why I'll be up until 2:30 in the morning. Um, Okay, guys, I'm back. Sorry about that. I just had a little intrusion there from my mom and my nan. You know, she was just taking my nan back and she noticed we're here. So, my apologies for that, ladies and gentlemen. That happens a lot in my streams, so you gotta get used to it. Okay, I can see you, mate. I'm just going to let you in, creepy boy. We've got room for about 3 more people to pop in, and I'll get somebody in, all right? So let's see if we can find anybody else, okay? Because it's a historic night. Hey, QY90. Nice to see you. Welcome aboard.
Hello. It has been a while since I've been on these streams.
Or a bit more like me as well, because I've had my room reinvented. Yeah, I used to be sitting over there. Yeah. Like you can see, I'm in my captain costume, which is what I've had for the last 10 years.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, as you could see, my mum was in the background saying, you know, it's Titanic Day and she's aware of what I'm doing. So she doesn't mind me doing it.
Okay.
Yeah. Again, it's my way of being respectful. And again, it's also what my OC looks like as well. My Titanic anime OC that I've been talking about.
That's cool.
If anybody's intrigued to find my that, you can go on my DA and take a look. I mean, I know Monty 2023 gamer definitely knows me too well in there. But I'm asking him if he wants to pop in, he's good. Farquhar, mate, you can listen if you want to, you can. There's nothing bothering you. You know, you can join us, you know. It's like a Titanic remembrance party. You can all have a bit of fun at the same time to lift our spirits up. Yeah, speaking of which, A Night to Remember was my second Titanic film, technically third, but my first Titanic experience was the 1996 two-part film. That's how I first got to know what it was, but I thought it was just a fictional type of, you know, sinking, because even the name didn't sound real. It all looked like a fairy tale out at sea. But then with the 96, you know, when this movie came out, 97, which I've got playing in the background, basically that was the closest seeing the actual thing itself, but I didn't realize, you know, it was a fictional love story with the reality based again, like we've seen in the past films. But it still remains as the closest to ever actually being there.
Huh.
Yeah, Farquhar left a big message there. That's why I'm talking to him there. So sorry for listening in on that, creep boy.
That's fine.
Listen, James Taylor, I know you want to be in, but if you ask me too much, I might have to sink your lifeboat, mate. You don't want to go there. You know, I'm the captain of this stream, so I make the decisions. Yes, Michael Brown, I can tell you use this Cyclops stuff and how. Yes, indeed. Yeah, I'm getting messages left, right, and center. People are talking to me from here, I'm on one side. I'm just like, okay. So I do apologize if I'm not talking too much there. If it's just because I've got messages flowing from one side to the other. So I'm randomly talking to everybody at this point. So my apologies there. So anyway, creepy boy, tell me how about you know some of your knowledge a bit on Titanic a little bit. You know, if you want to pass on some of your knowledge, if you have.
There's honestly not a lot. All I know is that it sunk. And it was a huge boat.
Well, big ships aren't called big boats, all right? That's something you never call a big ocean liner. Jesus.
Sorry.
I know, it's just something you never call Titanic that either. If her spirit human form was here right now, you wouldn't want to see her mad. AKA, you don't want to make a Titan mad. Since she was named after the three Titans from Greek mythology.
Huh.
Yeah, well, same thing with her sisters, Olympic and Britannic, who originally was going to be called Gigantic. You know, because the Olympians were the triumphant gods, which is what Olympic was. The Titans, which is what Titanic was named after, were known as the banished gods. And Britannic's original name, called the Giants, they were the wrong side from that war and were banished as well. And after Titanic sank, the name was changed from Gigantic to Britannic, which I thought was an even better name. That's okay, mate. That's okay, Farquhar. You can get the chance when you need to. It's all right. No pressure, pal. No pressure. I'm getting messages left, right, and center on different different groups I'm in. Jesus, man, this is insane. Seems to happen every time on Titanic Day. Well, in my version of Titanic, if you read the Race Titanic, in my version, it gives you a rough idea of what could have happened. You know, she's basically she's like a combination of what she's like in Cussler's novel, and then you have the movie version. Combine those two together, that's kind of like what Titanic in mine would have looked like, in my take. Hey there, Farquhar, mate. Welcome on board.
Hello.
Nice to see you.
Thanks. Yeah, thank you.
Just making sure what's going on outside.
Thanks.
It's pitch black out there. Can't see anything.
I found curious that Titanic is taller than Lusitania.
Well, Lusitania and Mauritania did begin the four-stack ocean liner era. They were big for their time, but if you look at Titanic and the Olympic, they're like over 100 feet more longer than their nearest rival. So, you know, they what's good about the Titanic and Olympic is that they really heralded in the age of the superliner. You know, that's one thing they were successful of.
Yeah, I guess so. So,
Like being over like 800, because they were both well over 800 feet long, and they were also you know, well over 45,000 tons or whatever it was.
yeah,
I mean, Titanic was 100 and was built out with. Hang on, let me rephrase that. Titanic was actually 46,000 tons, so she was even heavier than her own sister.
yeah,
1,000 tons heavier.
yeah, she was expensive, but then she sank sadly. So yeah,
Well, yeah, if they had, I mean, there was so much faith in technology that Titanic had. There were so many errors that were working against them. I mean, but this was the early days of the century that we were dawning on. So there was this, you know, great thing to look forward to. But at the same time, I think there was a lot of things, elements that worked against the technology that we had.
but
You know,
Titanic still looks very gorgeous, and it was a beautiful ship. It was very modern for that time, and it had a lot of chance to be the best ship in the world for that time. But sadly, yeah,
well,
everything got backfired.
well, basically, you know, Titanic and her sisters, and you know, they were the best, in my personal opinion. To this very day, despite we've seen some really good liners who have come afterwards and since then, I mean, none of them will ever beat Titanic in terms of appearance-wise. I mean, in terms of name or whatever, but to me, there's always other great ships besides Titanic. I mean, besides the Lusitania and Mauritania, and of course some of the other end, look at their rivals from Cunard, as I said. You had Lusitania, the Mauritania, you had the Aquitania, who outlived Titanic and Olympic for a long while, serving in both wars, and finally just, went out. Who was basically the last of the four funnel stackers. Monterey, I can't say that, man. Sorry, pal. That base remain classified. Can't tell us.
And actually, I think that in 1920, when the Titanic sank, there were some theories that the Titanic got split in half.
Well, that did happen. Titanic actually
Yeah.
did sink into two pieces.
Jack Fay's description on how Titanic sank. It split like, let's say we, and then sunk like normal ship after that.
Hey, Monterey, you're asking me way too many questions here, pal. Just chill. We don't want to go too ahead of ourselves. Okay. Like I said, last year was definitely a momentous occasion of 110 years. This year is definitely no different. Everybody from DA to social media, they're all doing some good stuff in remembering Titanic, regardless, whether you're watching documentaries or watching the films, or, or even, like what we're doing, or even just talking about it, or cosplaying, or going to any events. Basically, this is what makes it very special.
Yeah.
Even though I see Titanic right now in the 97 film at this point, you can see right now they've gone back in time. When I first saw the movie, I thought that was actually a real life working replica of Titanic and not a movie set. That's how realistic it looks. And I was thinking, holy cow, they've actually made a big live variation of it.
So as a child, when I first watched the Titanic film by James Cameron, I always thought that was a real ship, and it really did sank in the film. But yeah, after some time, I learned that it's all just 50% 3D graphics, and the second half is just a replica. So yeah, my
Well, like I
dreams
said,
were
James Cameron's Titanic's the closest we've ever seen in reality. I've seen other versions of Titanic being portrayed in other models. The 1953 one is still with us, thank goodness. It's well preserved, somewhere. That's another one that looked closely like Titanic, but on a smaller scale. And then you had, the the other one that was in 1958, and I actually remember, was portrayed by a couple of other ships, especially a different model of its own. But even Queen Mary from the Cunard line, who I've been on board with, actually portrayed Titanic a couple of times. In 1979, SOS Titanic, it was called, the first coloured film. And then that terrible 2010 Titanic 2 film, again, Queen Mary played a modern day version of Titanic, which I thought, was a good way of, despite what many people think of it, I thought that was a cool idea of using an actual liner to play a fictional modern day Titanic in a way, which that's just me.
I don't really like the 1997 film by James Cameron isn't bad, but what I don't like is that Titanic only started to split in half when it was like almost 90 degrees up. And I just actually quite dislike that. It feels unreal actually. The Titanic will break somewhere at 45 degrees.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, Titanic did go at a 45-degree angle. I still think that's how. I have so many theories of how the breakup happened. Either that happened, or prior to the 1985 theory that we thought at the time, and then you have the shallow angle, which we thought may have happened when the breakup happened earlier, which is why Titanic may have looked like it went down one piece, only to separate once out of eye view. Yeah, like I said, we've managed to get the breakup correct of where it may have started, but we'll never know exactly when and where, because because some of the things that we noticed that what made Titanic look like it went down in one piece is that the double bottom underneath were basically holding the two together before they finally gave away. There's an old animation that stood the test of time from the documentary called Titanic Answers from the Abyss, which is one of my favorite ones I grew up watching as a kid in my early years. It shows the classic sinking of what we thought at the time, and then showing how the bow and stern separate was basically like if you watch my hands, when Titanic finally was going into the final position, it like cracked, but the two sides were holding each other, and there's the double bottom underneath, and finally pulls the stern up and drags it with it, and then once out of eye view, going down the first 100 feet or whatever, the bow and stern finally just planed away. That was, at the time, what we all thought may have happened after that. But since James Cameron redid it again in his own version in 2012, I was led to believe, okay, so we got the actual sinking correct back then in 2012, like in the Titanic, The Final Word, which was one of the best. But we've seen recent ones now. We're seeing like these Adventure Out of Time. We're seeing these animated Hope and Glory Titanic ones that we're seeing lately, even paint a much more realistic timeline that we've ever seen. Which, in no disrespect to James Cameron's technology or whatever, but I think these guys have really painted it's almost like they've took us back completely in time. And I feel like they've kind of created an actual picture of what it was actually like if we were to have gone back in time officially. I mean, there's been so many reenactments of Titanic sinking. It's always sometimes hard to tell, this is the actual thing that actually happened when my witnesses saw it. It's so tough to do. But this is the fun thing about it, no matter how many times we see it. I'm just seeing Titanic leaving Southampton.
Yeah, I wish I could see at least as cinematic in real life, because that's the last surviving White Star Line ship, but because I'm in Russia, so yeah, I think I will never get a chance to see it as cinematic.
Well, like I said before, I mean, I've been to a few Titanic museums, and you can actually get to see some parts of Titanic's hull that had been recovered. There's a big piece that was recovered, but if you go to the Titanic expedition, and I advise you to go to one, near the exit way, when you go and check who were the survivors and who died, and they do a ticket were you a survivor of one of them? Who were you? Near the entrance exit way, when they do the whole final wrapping up, they go to a bit where you can actually look at a glass, and you can put your little fingers in to check this out, and it actually shows a piece of Titanic's recovered steel hull just laying there, and you can actually get to feel what the steel was made out of. And I've had that a couple of times, and I'm not gonna lie, it did something very strange to me. It was like I was like seeing the whole ship for the first time, just a little glimpse.
So
This is the impact it had on me, and it still does. And it's like, just for a few moments, I felt like I was on Titanic, like I could see it right there. And yeah, once you touch that part of Titanic's steel skin, you know she's embedded into your life forever, and that's what's happened to me ever since.
so right, about talking about not Titanic, I have seen one steam navy ship in North Seas. It's a port city in the south of Russia, near the Black Sea. It's called, I think, Mikhail Kutuzov. It's actually quite large ship. I mean, probably the largest I have ever seen. And I'm not a fan of navy ships, but I think this time I actually liked how this ship looked like.
Now, I'm just going to do this very quickly here. I don't usually do this a lot, but this was technically what I just did recently. Now, this could stir off some people here who may not like this, but I'm just going to show you guys something that you're going to like. I did this recently, and yeah, this was my way of a marking of respect. Here we go. This is actually what you can see here is actually my OC, and there's Titanic in anime, in the Japanese stuff. This is basically what she looks like as a human being, and this is what they are today in my fan fiction. The two of them are actually lovers in my fanfic, just to let you know.
I quite like it. Looks quite good.
Yeah, I got a little sick and tired of the whole Jack and Rose romance, so this is my take on it, and it's a lot better and refreshing. That's kind of like what my OC looks like as he is now, like at this point in time, because he's an immortal, because Titanic turned him into an immortal, and he's not even human anymore. And even she's an immortal, so nothing can't kill her, except if you sink her vessel, then she would. But nothing like a gunshot or anything like that, or anything else that's lethal to a normal human being wouldn't be possible to do so.
Interesting.
As you just saw, yeah. Well, basically, she does have superpowers. It's anime, Japanese thing. You know what they're like. So basically, anything that can do that can't even harm her. Yes, she might quote unquote bleed, but it doesn't affect.
Hmm.
Yeah, the only thing that would do is like elements that would happen if you harm her ship and you're harming her body that way. That's one way to do it.
As a child, I was a huge fan of Titanic. I would always draw it. So yeah, I think that's made my so it's and I think the childhood made my passion to the ships and Titanic. So yeah, thanks to Titanic, now I know what is a ship though.
Well, that's what I feel Titanic would look like as a human. Now, to give you a little spoiler alert, those of you who don't know what my fanfic in Titanic is in Raise the Titanic, it's basically a combo of the film and novel. Just to give you a little spoiler alert, guys. Basically, so to prevent any more, this is what Titanic looks like when she's risen, when she's quote unquote resurrected. To coin the phrase, resurrection of a Titan, as it's nicknamed. This is what she looks like when she's salvaged.
Wait, it's surrounded by Navy ships, right?
The other ships around are from the US Navy because they're.
Well, the nearest ships to Titanic because Titanic sank very close to the North America, to USA.
Yeah, in the Grand Banks. They're about 500 miles from the Newfoundland coast. So this is what my version of her looks like. She's still rusted and blushed, but her paint still shines through barely. The crow's nest was gone. The fourth funnel had gone. The remaining smokestack that blew up is still there. But the third funnel fell over like the fourth one does in the novel. But she still maintained her fourth smokestack, which was somehow sticking in its mouth just about, and its other rear mast. So this is technically what's left of her, but still intact.
Yeah, it looks quite good, although it's quite strange that it's not split into two halves. So yeah, it's like somehow got into full piece.
Yeah, they basically in the salvation stage they basically sealed up the iceberg damage. They even got some parts where it was opening up because it almost does snap its back in the fanfic in my version, just because the expansion joint just about opened up, but they managed to seal it up afterwards. But she still managed to go down in one piece, if not completely, on the verge of going. But she still survived. Now, as you can clearly see here on my DA stuff, I did make different variations of what she looks like when she comes out, especially in my Titanic Thomas remix I've done here. But that's going to have to wait until the next anniversary, unfortunately.
Oh,
I know
boy.
there's a lot of like what the hell moments, so just ignore that, guys. This is on my DA here, as you can definitely tell. I did some recent ones. This one here is basically based on the movie itself, from James Cameron, except this is the last moments that Cam Smith and Titanic have before they end up going down. Except she spares his soul, but his body dies. So basically, she has the captain's soul within her.
Yeah, so,
That's how I'd like to think Cam Smith died. He died in the wheelhouse, like we saw in the movie. And this is also the human form of the Carpathia who couldn't save Titanic in time. The humanized reenactment of it.
there was a picture where there was a person in red.
That's right, yeah.
And the right picture, it's the guy's in red. Like,
basic. No, and the red skin, just ignore that. That's in my fanfic where Titanic basically saved my OC from death. Like, this is just like after her wreck went down and her spirit form got released. Only he can see her because she's technically like a ghost.
right.
And the glowing is basically her saving his life, and that's when he became an immortal. She basically spared his life. But that was until he realized. We wouldn't find out with this, later on until he discovers he has superpowers because she did that to him. And she doesn't even realize it until later on. Until the events of Race Titanic, when she finally realized that she was the cause of doing it. So yeah, even a quote unquote Titan goddess can give someone that sort of thing. Now there's a catch though to Titanic in my fanfics. We all know we have a light side in us.
Yeah.
But it turns out that Titanic herself even has a dark side.
Oh, makes sense. So,
Just like
you can go. Sorry.
Just like in anime, she has another personality. Basically, she likes to say, quote unquote, her true form as a Titan, because she was named after them. And let's just say,
like a alter ego.
Yeah, it's like when you see an anime, they're the same people, but they end up changing in a different appearance, and they look more stronger and 10 times more. It's basically like in the Japanese anime film Rosary X Vampire, where Moka Akashia has her necklace thing, and when she removes it, she becomes a super high class S monster, like a real vampire type. And that was kind of the idea I got for Titanic. Yeah, as crazy as it seems, that was where I got the idea from. Basically, it's her inner half. Basically, she's like a goth, and she's basically dubbed as Inner Titanic, which is her other half. Yeah, this is going to be a bit like what the hell moment. I'm just going to show you what she looks like. Again, it's all anime related. And this is what Titanic looks like, her inner form. As you can tell by the white glowing, that's her intensity power when she wakes up. Yep, the grey style. Basically, she's wearing Lusitania's 1915 gear look. Yet her eyes are like blood red, which are basically eyes of hatred. That's something you don't want to be in when you see her waking up. And that's, of course, is the first time with my alter ego where they had reunited, and that's kind of what happened. Again, I was inspired by the movie Stardust, if you've not heard of that movie before. If you haven't, you go and check it out, and you'll see the how similar, that is. A lot of crazy stuff with my Titanic thing, but it happens a lot. I even got a replica of the thing from the movie.
Ooh, looks nice. Good job.
Ooh, that looks cool.
Yep, the heart of the ocean.
Yeah, I think it took you months to make the replica.
Oh, it was. It's an actual replica of the actual movie thing that they did. Got that for a good price. And spoiler alert, that's what my OC gives back to Titanic, as a reminder of his feelings for her. Not to mention, that's where she keeps most of the good, happy memories. And of course, that's where all the 1,500 souls will later rest in, so she preserves them, despite she can still hear the screams of the dead, which is a tragic thing to have. And that's what Mercy looks like afterwards, spoiler, when he becomes the captain of Titanic. He kind of resorts back to his old ways a little bit. I say a little, because he looked very different in the actual fanfic itself.
Okay.
Yeah, and if you don't mind, can I show the picture of the Navy ship I was talking about probably 20 minutes ago?
Hmm?
Can I show the Navy ship that I was talking about 20 minutes ago?
Hmm.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, I can just about hear you anyways, Farquhar. Your mic's kind of like faded out a little bit.
So, okay, can you see the screen? The screen, can you see it? So, right, can you see this ship, Navy ship right now?
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah, it's,
Oh,
yeah,
nice. Intriguing.
yeah, no, so, it's quite large, I think. Yeah, right
This
now
is one of
it
the Navy
doesn't.
ships, huh?
Yeah, it's a Soviet Navy ship. I think it was built in 1960s, 50s, not sure. Right now it doesn't have propellers. I think they're on repair or something. Um, yeah, it's quite large, as you can see. Has
That is quite
this?
long.
Yeah, quite
Huh.
long and huge. I was at first quite scared standing near it because I have a fear of ships and submarines. But to be honest, after 5 minutes, I was feeling right next to it. And I really don't like the back of the ship, how it looks like. It looks quite plain and strange, and quite dirty too. Looks, there's a lot of rust on it.
Yeah, definitely needs some repainting on that.
Yeah, okay. Oh, this one says modern one. Okay, so yeah, quite a large ship, and and actually the cap thing where the controls and stuff is looks quite confusing, to be honest.
Hmm.
There's just a lot of things and levels, so like this level, I mean level 1, level 2, level 3, I think. So yeah,
Here
but
we go.
so I mean you actually can enter this ship, but it was on repairs, I think, or maybe I think it still wasn't ready for the visitors, so yeah,
Oh,
I
yeah.
couldn't enter the ship, but I would love to see the insides of it, and especially the machine room, because machine room I think is the best part of the ship.
Well, I've been on a Navy vessel tent, which was 11 years ago. I went on the USS Iowa, one of the
Uh,
Americans' powerfulest ever built and fastest. It was
uh, have,
amazing. Good. I was
have
one
you
of the
seen,
first visitors.
have you seen the SS Belfast, the British Navy ship? Probably the
What,
last.
HMS Belfast?
Yeah, HMS
Which is
Belfast.
basically our only surviving World War II battleship. Yeah, she's very popular in London, you know.
Yeah.
And if you ever want to check out anime as well, mate, Farquhar, mate, if you ever want to, you can always see, you can even check out Belfast as a human almost. There's a franchise called Azure Lane, and she's one of the main characters in there. She's really good.
Okay,
Yeah,
well,
very, very awesome looking.
you can call me Dmitri or William if you want, of course. I mean, I don't mind it.
Anyways, here's what we got here for you. These are some of my early works. This is kind of like what you see in the fanfic, but what you don't see. you know, in a way, what we don't see, like a delayed scene. You're gonna like this as well, Creepy Boy. Here's one of my best and early scenes. There's Titanic, you know, her human form watching over as she's about to go down. Basically, that's the model from 1953, and that's still with us. Yeah, as you can tell, she's basically
Oh
watching.
wow.
This was one of the early days. This is an idea to give you an idea of what it would have been like prior to the demise, and then this and there's another one afterwards, like just after her wreck has gone under. The lifeboats are there, but they can't see her. Only she can see them, but they don't know she's actually watching down on them. You know, this is how I always feel Titanic is like on this time of the year when it actually happened. You know,
I just want to tell you that this summer I'm going to St. Petersburg, and I think I'll probably take some
yeah,
photos there.
St. Petersburg. Hey, I've heard of that.
And yeah, I'm going to take a picture of the probably the oldest Navy ship called Arizona, I think. Oh yeah, it's called Aurora. Aurora. It's a very old ship. It's quite historic because during the October Revolution, the command, I think they shoot it from the gun into the snow palace, but I think they missed it. So yeah, it's a very historic ship.
Pretty cool. Turns out the clock is just past 9 minutes after 10 o'clock. So we're getting close. It's now 10 minutes, and it's okay. It's been nearly 10 minutes now since 10 o'clock just hit. So we're getting close. We're almost there. Hey, my old buddy Milas has joined the party. Hey there, my old friend. Nice to see you. I can see you got your icon up.
Yep.
It's all right, lads. It's one of my old friends here who's joining with us.
Hello.
Hello.
Yes, Milas. I've just been talking about a few bits and showing my old DA stuff as well.
Oh yeah.
On my as you just noticed. Yeah, I do get a lot of mixed reactions about it, but it's still worth me sharing with you guys, regardless of what other people might think. You know.
Yeah.
I would love to visit Hungary because it's in the north part of Russia because there's the oldest surviving and the only one steam passenger ship is called Gogol. So yeah, I would love to see it. It's like
Nice.
the rarest thing we have here.
Well, speaking of those type of ships, there's one of my favorites, despite what I personally think of that. There's one that basically is the who rivals the closest version of the USS Constellation. Her name is the Polar Protective Cruiser. Her name's Aurora, but in Russia she's dubbed as Aurora, and she's one of the best. You know, she's basically the little battleship that could. And I advise you, Farquhar, to take a good look. She's one of the most loved and most liked visited ships ever. You know, survived 3 different wars, 2 revolutions, and yeah, has been through everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, check her out. She is basically the little battle cruiser that led a revolution for her nation. Very, very good. It's a good story as well.
Her name is Aurora, yeah?
Yeah. It's still dubbed Aurora. You just gotta replace the U with the V in it.
And it's cruise ship, yeah?
Nope, it's a battleship.
Oh, it's battleship, all that.
Hang on a second. Let me just give you an idea here. Hang on. Let me just okay. Let me just swap my okay. This is gonna be a tricky one. Hang on. There she is. She's one of the ones from the state. Here she is. I found her. Hang on. Where's that one that's very recent? Here we go. I found it. I know we're getting off topic here, but that tends to happen a lot in my streams, guys. It's a common thing. Here we go. I found it for you, Farquhar. This is the one. There she is. There's Aurora.
Yeah, I was talking about her. Yeah, it's a bit of a shape. So Wife 2 was, as you said, two revolutions. The first one was a February revolution. The second was an October revolution.
Yeah, basically that was the one. That was the one she was very famous for. The one who sparked when she fired a blank firing from her forward gun and sparked, the storming of the Winter Palace. I know. Well, she's not gonna lie. She's my favorite Russian battle cruiser, and if you want to know why she's one of my favorites, well, go and look in Azure Lane, and you'll see how adorable Aurora looks. She's basically a gorgeous beauty, apparently. And she's not just my waifu, she's everybody else's waifu. Yeah, trust me, once you see her, you will absolutely adore her,
That's not enough for me.
Check it. No, but check it. But I'm not joking. You should check her out. She's absolutely good. In a human formation, she's absolutely adorable.
I've got two ships that I would like to show. So the first one is that one on my avatar right now. So
I can see you got your icon changed to another vessel.
Yeah, it's this one, the last surviving.
Ship.
Yeah,
that one I remember.
Yeah, it's quite beautiful. Look at it. Under construction. Repairs. So yeah, the last one surviving out there in Russia. It's probably her first plunge into water. And there's another ship. It's a Russian church ship.
So a Russian / German, eh?
No, church.
Oh Jesus! How do they ever get these things to flow and build? That's ridiculous.
I think it's crazy, but at one point
that is crazy. How the hell did they ever get flying churches on pedal steams to work like that?
That's a slash ship battle ship and slash church. You can see those domes. Those are domes that are placed on Orthodoxy churches in Russia.
I ain't gonna lie, that looks kind of cool.
It does look cool. Don't get me wrong, that does look cool, but I'm just like, how the hell are they able to build something like that? I wouldn't be able to stand the weight.
And we actually have here a church ship.
Good Lord. Talk about wanting to pray to God when you're out at sea.
So it was built, $1 million were wasted.
$1 million wasted. Jeez.
Yeah.
That is a big waste. Good God.
But I don't mind it actually because
doesn't look too bad. At least it has survived despite all that wasted money.
I'm not a religious person, so yeah, I would love to visit this one too.
If you want to talk about battleships and other ones, there's two of them that are still ranking my top favorite, which are basically, no pun intended, to Titanic. They are both the Titanics of their respective Navy fleet. They are basically HMS Hood, the biggest ship in the Royal Navy. And of course, when you think of Hood, you think of her German rival, the Bismarck. Yeah. They are my two favorite battleships on those two countries, man. And if you go and look in Azure Lane, how ironic. They almost look like Titanic almost, because they both got long blonde hair and they both got blue eyes. Whereas in the video game, Bismarck's got green eyes instead. But holy cow, they almost look like Titanic and wrapped into one. I'm not kidding, guys. I was like, holy shit. It's like they took over my version of her and just redubbed her in two different forms. I'm like, Jesus Christ.
HMS Hood was something, I think, sunk by Bismarck, so yeah. Bismarck. I think Bismarck killed HMS Hood.
Yeah, she blew up. Basically, Bismarck blew up HMS Hood, and luckily,
Yeah,
three men survived. It was a
yeah, it
miracle.
was HMS Hood split in half. So
She
yeah, that
basically
was great.
she blew up in three pieces. Actually, she blew up on the surface in half, then blew up just underwater three times after that. And yet,
Good.
with Bismarck, it took just everyone in the Royal Navy to kill her off. But then again, we had to do what we had to do. You know,
Um,
despite we rescued a bunch of her crew, we killed off 100, and we basically killed off quite a lot of them. About Bismarck had roughly 114 survivors, which was a
Glenn, do,
miracle.
Glenn, do you want to see the craziest ship wheel? So it's quite crazy, actually. Look at it. What's so huge?
One of the best battles ever.
What's so huge?
Okay, that's a big, massive steering wheel.
Yeah, and this is the second. I mean, well, you can see. This is the where the most controls of um the
That's
paddle
what turns it
ship are.
around.
Oh
So
my.
That's
here you can
basically
see telegraph,
basically the
and
helms, isn't it? Where the guy has to spin it.
here's the Holy Cross. Here's radio stuff, and probably I think that's the valves. Yeah, yeah. And here's the big wheel. I'm not sure why it was it even made. I mean, for what reason? I mean, this wheel, well, it would fit perfectly fine for
No, that was
this ship.
a perfect fit. That looks good on the outside. Don't get me wrong. That is pretty cool.
But no, they made a joint wheel for this little ship. Wow. Yeah, I think the ship also has a bit strange boilers. But yeah, well, there here the boilers. They look a bit strange actually. So I
Okay,
mean,
now this is going to look pretty bad. I
yeah,
don't want to sound like we're going to go too gory. Oh, Jesus Christ, that looks pretty bad.
yeah. But how did they even film them with coal? Wait, did they put coal into these little holes?
Gee, I wouldn't survive that heat. That looks pretty tense.
Yeah, it's his. I think. Yeah, I think that's.
The bit where
That,
Titanic broke apart in the film, well, this is kind of like what would have happened in how I would vision. And I'm not good. Now, I apologize if I'm going to go a little anime gory here, apparently, but this is kind of like, the only time I ever went that far. This is her basically coming out of her shell. Basically, when the ship quote unquote dies, but her spirit's released. But Jesus Christ, it's kind of like an insane anime, blood gory or whatever. Okay, there she is. This is how I would vision when Titanic was like cracking out of her shell, and all the white stuff that you'll see is basically her spiritual powers just like gashing out of it, like Well, they don't see it, but we do. This is basically Titanic coming out when her stern finally breaks away. That's all that stuff there is what's coming out, and that's what she looks like on the inside. And that's basically supposed to represent blood gashing out of her as she splits out. Yeah, basically she's yelling in pure screaming agony as it's basically like in Star Wars, when the Emperor dies and all that stuff blows out. When after Darth Vader kills the Emperor and you see the blue stuff that blows all around the room afterwards when he dies. That's kind of like what's going on there with Titanic. Sure, that was a little bit too much for you guys, but yeah, that's kind of like what I was visioning in the movie.
Excuse me.
Mm,
You can say anything you want to, Mias, if any of you guys want to get your views on that.
it's 12 p.m. I mean, it's 11 p.m. in UK right now. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's now 22 minutes. That clock is ticking down quickly, man.
So
The clock is ticking.
yeah. So right now in Russia, it's 1 a.m. and 23 minutes.
on your side.
No.
So basically, the disaster's unfolding on your end already.
Wait, no, sorry, it's actually 12 AM and 23 minutes here. Quite late.
Oh. I couldn't hear you there, mate. My microphone dashed a little bit.
So right now it's 12 AM here.
Oh,
Quite
so
late.
the disaster's
Oh.
long since happened. So on your side, Titanic's already starting to sink already on your end.
Yeah, I mean,
So you're ahead of us.
Yeah, so
Well, I'm using the current timeline as well. Hey, Maito, I'm using the same as well because I'm doing the countdown as well as if we are in time at this moment.
Yeah.
Despite what day it is, we're still using the exact same time, so I'm looking at the clock right now.
I feel quite sad that in Russia we don't have many surviving steamships. We
Yeah.
like have only one surviving passenger steamship, few surviving navy ships.
They've
And
even done
also-
a few. They've done a couple of ones that they didn't make. There was some they did in the war that never made it, which were basically a response to the Bismarck class. Apparently, there was some. They were called the what were they called again? They were a class that never came to be. Let me just check that up quickly, because there were some I thought would have been fantastic, you know, and yet, okay, where are you? They were basically were going to be from what in Azure Lane they're called the Northern Parliament Fleet, which is for the Russian fleet, and okay, I found them. They were basically supposed to be called. Hang on, see again. Okay, they were supposed to be called the class called the Sovry Sonia class, and they were never built.
I think that, talking about other types of ships, submarines probably are the scariest looking one.
There it is. I found it. One of them were called from Project 23, the Sovrudsky Savoria class. They were basically a response to the Bismarck class, and they would have looked quite impressive if they were built. They were partially, but they never saw service, and that is a damn shame.
Yeah, so. Battleships are not even scarier than a submarine. Submarine look and it's quite spooky, I guess, because they are quite big. And imagine you're swimming in the sea, and then you feel something that something touch your legs, and it's actually a submarine.
Oof, that would be
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah, I would I don't know. I think I would have a heart attack actually.
It would, yeah. There's also one flagship in the Russian Navy which is called Peter the Great.
Yeah, it's
That's still around, isn't it? That's the flagship still. I
yeah.
thought that.
It's like a reverse version of, or inverse version of the flag of Scotland because they're quite similar. Also
Yeah,
I think
although Peter Great has a massive bridge thing, you would think the whole thing would roll over. It looks so tall.
yeah, and also the blue color has a bit different tone from the Scottish flag. So
It
yeah,
does. Hey Ryan, nice to see you. Oh, we've got a
um,
train enthusiast joining us too.
actually the navy flag of the flag of Russian Navy is actually called like a Saint Andrew's flag. It was first created by Peter the First, Peter the Great. So yeah, yeah.
Yep, indeed. Hang on. Where's the other? Okay. Okay, here's another one. This is kind of like in the later years, guys.
I quite hate that there's still sort of like there are like
There she is.
communist
Here we are,
Soviet
guys.
stars are still left on most of the Navy ships, and I absolutely hate it.
Here's a image of me and Mosi and Titanic, basically in the early modern years. This is kind of like what she would have been like about roughly 10 years later or whatever it was before, if you go back. this is what she looks like now, like sitting in the wheelhouse while my OC does the driving and the helm steer, and they always stay together. Basically, Titanic has adapted in modern time, and she's wearing her own modern day clothing, but just wearing the same livery to match her ship. It's a trademark she does a lot.
So she's like sitting in a chair, and she
Yeah.
controls the wheelman. Yeah.
She's basically just sitting there while my OC has control of the helm, but she's like sitting in comfortable, and while her ship's moving and he's got control of it, only she can obey his orders, like keep control of what's going on and what nonsense ever. But yeah, when they're in there together, they're in sync with one another. Kind of like it's kind of like a master and apprentice type of thing. Like it listens to what the captain says. They trust one another, you know. And basically, here's a trivia for you. Since Titanic got restored in mine series and everything, this is the only place where she's actually seen, mostly by the officers, but never by the passengers. She's basically not that type of a person who could blend in with people. If she has to like remove the necklace on her nameplate and wear something different and not to, and change her nameplate so no one knows she's actually the human version of her actual namesake. You know, it's
Yeah.
it's something that happens a lot, you know.
So I really hate the modern design of the ships because the modern ships look quite plain, and the old ships, they were like the old ships have very
Oh,
juicy
that was quite
design.
loud. Whoops. Sorry,
Oh,
mate. That was quite
hello.
loud.
Sorry.
Hey, Rodney. Okay, Ryan. Hey, do you want to join us with us, mate? We've got a bit of time left before I wrap this one up. We've been on for an hour and 12 minutes. Now, the classic out of time animation. Never gets old, this thing does. Yeah, Ryan's going to pop in with us. I'll just send you the link, mate. We could do with some more company.
Oh, I remember that animation. I think I was first watched it probably in 2018, I think.
Now, where's the other one I'm looking for now in the share screening? I know I had it here somewhere. This is where things get a little difficult. I wonder where it went. This is going to be very difficult. Yeah, it's missing, guys. I don't know where it went. Strange. Okay, Ryan, hang on. I'll get you in just a moment. I'm just looking for somewhere here. This is very tricky. This I know it's here somewhere. I think I may have lost it. That is weird because I had it there just a moment ago.
What are you looking for?
Nothing in particular. It's just I thought I had it in my Titanic file. That is weird. Oh wow. I'll just have to find another time because I'll be needing another stream afterwards. Because I've done well with this, but we're having a lot of fun. Again, Farquaad, thanks for popping in. It has been an honor. Like I said, you're more than welcome to come back anytime if you ever like to. It's been an honor. Oh, okay, right. I'm just about to get you in. Let's just see now. Where did you go? It's like this file wants to play hide and seek with me here. I know. I know it's there, but I just can't remember where exactly I put it. Where did you go? Oh, here we go. I think I may have found it in one of my fanfics. Okay, where are you?
Oh,
There
so
we are. I think I may have found it. It's in one of my fanfics. That's where it was. There we go. I found him. You guys can repeat if you want to. Like I said, you're going to like this, guys. I'm going to show you one of my fanfics. But it shows what I would have done if my OC had been there, you know. Hey, Ryan.
How's it going?
Hey, okay. Long time no see, my friend.
I apologize for the long wait.
It doesn't really matter. I had patience. I had my other life to deal with. I've been reinventing myself. But I'm in my typical thing. This is what I do every year on this day. I did it
Like
last
your
year.
costume.
Well, I've had this. Well, thanks. I've been doing this thing for 11 years on Titanic. Not to mention the cap I have is now 10 years old.
Yeah.
As
It
you can
kind of
tell.
it kind of makes you feel like your own Auk of Tugs. Like I once wanted to dress up as Captain Zero for Halloween one time, but the Mafia, like I imagine what his Mafia costume would be. He would have the same stripes as his Zed Stacks would, but he would of course look more older than Zarin.
Oh, wow. I was thinking I thought for a second, I thought you were trying to envision what Mr. Zorro and Mr. Star would look like.
Yeah. Captain Zero, I think, is my number one favorite for many good reasons because though he only appeared physically in 3 episodes, which, yes, I'm counting Jinx, he definitely seemed like he had a much larger role than you think because I actually found out I actually own a photo book copy of the episode High Winds, and it states that Captain Star was originally meant to appear
And you didn't.
where he scolds at Zebedee for helping Johnny Cuba, but he gets caught off guard by the Coast Guard and tells him that Zebedee stopped Johnny Cuba with Hercules, and so Johnny Cuba was arrested.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie to you guys. That was one of my, to this day, one of my all-time favorite episodes of Tugs, and I liked the fact that Zebedee, despite being rivals with the Star Tugs, could actually lend a helping hand. So I always felt like he was the less quote unquote evil of the Z stacks, quote unquote.
Yeah.
Yep.
Sounds like
Zebedee
he was
definitely is
neutral.
redeemable. Yeah, Zebedee is definitely redeemable of a character.
He is. I mean,
And
I could tell. I
think the same can be said for Zip and Zug and possibly Zarin.
Zarin looks more like it. Well, I think it's safe to say, and I see this every time in the Toms community. I know I'm getting off track here, guys. In the Toms community and the Tugs community, you would think that Devious Diesel and Zarin were almost one and the same. Think about it, they look very similar, but every time I hear Zarin's voice, I've seen many people do parodies with Thomas and Tugs, and they always give Diesel the role of Zarin, and it makes perfect sense. You can actually,
If you
I'm not gonna lie. If they ever did, if they had kept the CGI and when they went to the whole moving mouthpiece and whatever, they could have adapted.
I would question how would that work if they also had rotating wheelhouses.
But just think about it. I mean, think of the voices from Sunshine and Tencent's voicing Thomas and Percy in the actual CGI thing. Just think of it; it would work.
Fun fact: did you know that there's actually going to be a Tugs documentary following the Unlikely Fandom one?
Yes,
I'm very retrospective.
Yeah, I'm very aware of that. I've been keeping track of it. I'm looking forward to it, big time.
Yeah, it's a great story. And fun fact: at the very end of the trailer, Sunshine's actual voice actor was heard speaking.
I heard. I was shocked. I literally thought he wasn't alive anymore after so many years.
Yeah, he is older than Tencent's voice actor Simon Nash.
Jeez. Oh wow, Simon Nash. That's what a weird name, but that looks pretty cool. I'm like, jeez. Yeah. It's a shame that we haven't had many of them. I mean, what I like mostly about Tugs is the big ships, even though we don't see them very often. Like there was the passenger liners. There was one who was heavily based on Mauritania, who we saw in the first episode. And then we saw Princess Alice, who was a 2-stack liner.
Yeah.
And then you had, and then there was the one who we saw in the ending, Freezing Tide, which was basically, who basically looks like a ghost of Titanic almost.
Yeah, and again, like I said in the chat, if the Titanic did appear in tugs, either non-sunken or sunk, he would not have a face, unless if you see him in the form of like Big Mickey, because in the original deleted script for Ghost, Big Mickey was originally going to be given a small role where OJ was passing by the bay, where he would later encounter Scuttlebutt Pete. But as he passes by the same hammer crane, it is referred to be known as Big Mickey's corpse. As it turns out, he was salvaged after the incident in munitions. However, he is now renamed the Snatcher, and he has a Frankenstein-like monster face.
God, jeez. So I guess he wasn't fully what's the word? He wasn't fully recovered physically in the face, so he had been badly disfigured.
Yeah, in fact, I came up with this canon to try and make it somewhat theorizing or compelling, where Big Mickey doesn't die in the munitions incident, because he does appear later in Ghost, and that is in the canonical order of the show, because Ghost does come after munitions. And ever since that incident, Big Mickey had got mentally traumatized, and therefore he would start to tend to become more active and more tedious, like when it came to spills and chills. And so therefore he would later be nicknamed the Snatcher due to his very like crazy personality.
Well, if anyone's experienced what you saw in Munitions and the whole blowing up scene, and if anyone survives it, take it like us human beings, you're darn right we're going to get traumatized after what he's saying to you.
Yeah.
There's no way you can recover from that.
Yeah.
The any cases, when you said about Titanic, I mentioned you calling it a he. So in the tugs canon, in your perspective, you'd vision Titanic as a male ship rather than female.
Mm-hmm. In fact, I once imagined him with glasses like the same ones that Hercules wears, except they're not sunlight reflective.
Wow, Titanic with glasses. That's something I've really started seeing on DeviantArt, where there are some people who actually give the female version some form of it now. But I didn't expect to hear that. I mean, somebody just did a Titanic tug thing, took a real black and white fighter and just painted a face thing on it. Looked pretty good.
Yeah, in fact, I actually got a bit of merch from Tugs. Like right here, we got 10 cents.
Oh wow, you got the book. Oh, there's 10 cents. And I can see you got the big Railway Series book of Thomas and Friends. I've actually got that myself too.
I got that as a Christmas present exclusive. And here's what I got for Christmas last year.
Christmas was amazing last year. Oh, you got Mr. Conductor's cap. You lucky son of a gun. You need to get your now you need to get the rest. You need to get the rest of the costume, and you need to get your sparkle.
Already got it ahead of time.
Sparkle.
God damn it! Not that trend again.
But don't worry. But here's the thing. I'm thinking if I actually made my first video on my own channel, I might make a tutorial video on how to make your own Mr. Conductor costume. It's really not that hard.
Yeah. Well, growing up, before I did cosplaying, that was one of my things I wanted to do because I am a big Mr. Conductor fan. Although it didn't really matter what version he is, but if me being British, I would kind of be a mixture of Ringo Starr and George Carlin. No disrespect to Alec Baldwin. Yeah, in fact, I once told a few friends of mine on Instagram about my own little story, where this is my own version. Like, you know how David Mitton would make his own versions of the television series compared to the Railway series, like how he changed the geography or the story continuity, like how having Stepney's old line on Sodor instead of in the Bluebell Railway in the UK. That makes perfect sense. I can see where that would be, but being with me, I'm more of a Railway series, although I'm more of a Thomas Railway series guy because nowadays it's more realistic as ever. But I like to tell my stories in TVS, it's basically what I always say is my version of Sodor was like a hybrid of the TV series and the Railway series. Like with my Titanic fanfic, you have the reality and the fictional blending in together. It's basically to sum it up in a if you want Sodor to be a reality, you have the Railway series of Sodor, essentially like in our timeline right now. Mm-hmm. But you tell what am I saying? I'm trying to get this in my head here. I know I had it there. It's like a Railway series existence, but set in a TVS timeline. Yeah, a lot of fans, and even the Unlucky Tug would tell you that. And I do miss him, man. I'm glad he's back, but I'm not gonna lie. He look, before we
He
get
was
back
a
on
challenged
Titanic,
guy. He was very challenged.
he basically, in my opinion, he's the guy that basically uncovered everything in Thomas's Pandora's box that we now know today.
Yeah.
But the best one, now this is just me personally, before we get back onto Titanic, I know, but this is what happens in my stream. It's very common to go off topic, even though we try and keep it related. But this is what I like, and I find new friends and what to do. It's basically the best one I think Unlucky Tugs ever did was the story of Henry the Green Engine, uncovering his
Yeah.
origin. To me,
that was why Henry is my favorite character of all time.
Same here, man. He's the guy. I think it's safe to say everyone in the fandom say there's one guy to relate. It's that guy. It's
And
Henry.
Henry is my number 1 with Toby as my number 2 and Gordon as my number 3.
Oh, we're very close, man. To me, Gordon and Henry, in my opinion, I hate to say it, they both share the same number 1 spot each because of personal reasons.
Yeah.
Although Gordon was my second favorite to begin with, if I'm going to be all honest.
As for Mr. Conductor, I made this little story which does sound like I'm forcing Magic Railroad into the main canon of the main series, but the reason I'm doing that is because of one particular reason. It explains why the trains have faces.
I get that, yeah. I believe that happens.
Yeah. I think Magic Railroad did a better job with explaining with Lady. And besides, to be fair, the Railway series weren't too specific about how the engines have faces, as it didn't really seem to matter. But I still think it's worth you give some explanation as to how this world of anthropomorphic or sentient engines functions.
Well,
Yeah.
I feel like the Magic Railroad tells it better. But if there's anybody who could come close to telling how that actually is to be, just look at Victor Tanzik. I think he gives a good explanation.
Yep. Remember the video where he answers the question on how the train's here? He did a fantastic job on that.
He did, yeah. He even said about like the process is called an awakening when they wake up on their first job or whatever.
Yeah.
I know. But I like to
Yeah.
believe that, and I've actually put that in my canon a couple of times. So I feel like, in a way, and forgive me for saying it, I feel that Victor I've said this to a lot of people, and some fans do agree as well with each other. Victor Tanzik is basically the cure to Shed 17.
Yeah. He definitely kills that awful bacteria.
No, don't get me wrong. I like Shed 17 for what it was. Because I actually had a laugh out of it. I was like, so this is how they got. They said, but it's a laugh.
But it ruins the whole timeline. They got Thomas's year built.
I know.
Wrong. They said it was 1968.
Well,
as for for Mr. Conductor's story in my universe, I gave some backstory about him being originally him and his family being Sudrian citizens of Sodor.
Oh, nice, Sudrian, nice.
During the Second World War time, where they had to go into hiding for their safety.
Sorry, Ryan, we got one of my mates here who joined with us.
Hi, Brian.
Hiya.
Been a long time, Brian. What's up?
Nothing much. I'm actually at work right now.
Oh, you're having a break?
No, I have like the best job ever.
Oh.
Yeah. Basically, my job is I get to sit in front of a computer, watch a bunch of monitors, and write up any incidents.
So basically, you're keeping your eyes on. Basically, you're doing the Big Brother thing. That's pretty good, actually. You're keeping your eyes out for anything suspicious. Now it's quite boring, but at least
places are paying us to keep a watch.
Good. At least you're keeping your eye out for anything that's bad in the world. So at least you're doing something for the good.
Yep.
Yeah, just no go falling asleep on the job too much. Try and drink as much as you can. Any cases, besides all that, you can tell I'm in my Titanic uniforming, and the clock. Oh my goodness, that clock is going fast. It's now 10. It's on my side. It's now 10:46 p.m. That clock is closing in on 11 p.m. Big time.
For me, it's already 11:47 p.m.
So on your side, so that means on your end, Titanic's just hit the iceberg 7 minutes ago in your timeline right now.
For me, it's about like 5:47.
So you're closing down to dusk and up by the night of it. So you got
5:47.
So you're basically very close to about roughly 6 hours or so to go before the collision happens in your timeline.
Yep.
Yeah, so we're up to dusk of the night. Oh yeah, because I'll be catching up after that because I'll be watching A Night to Remember with some of my mates online after this. So, but this has been really good. I mean, I know we've gone back and forth a few times, and Ryan, it's good to see you back again. The next time you come in,
Yeah,
you're
this is
welcome.
the first time I'm in a live chat on cam. This is the first time. I can't thank you
Well,
enough
you
for
guys-
this. And
And what a way to do it on Titanic Day as well.
Mhm.
And speaking of which, yeah, I won't be able to do my Thomas and Titanic fanfic again
Yeah.
unless I can do it in the post. Unless I can do it post Titanic because I've got a very, very well, once I get past this day or so or whatever, because I've got a very, very exciting April to look forward to. I've got to see Flying. I'm having a reunion with Flying Scotsman, and then I'll be going to a wrestling event just down the road from where I'm at. So I've got a very exciting April to look forward to. Just trying to
That's good. That's a good thing.
149 789 123. Again, that's P-Ball 456 149 789 138.
what the hell?
If that's from me, that's the police scanner in the background.
Oh, I see. That's quite a loud. That's pretty loud, sensitive microphone you got there, Brian.
Hmm.
Speaking of
That
which,
also is pretty loud.
yeah. But anyways, so I'll just go to mute for a sec. Hang on. Yeah, that clock is ticking fast. So eventually, about roughly around, I'd say 11 something, but we'll have to end it because I have to get into a tunnel with the others. Oh, and there's Thomas. It's Thomas Tank. My old buddy's popped in. Let's get him in. Hey,
Hello
Thomas
again,
Tank.
Glenn.
Hello, it's
Ted.
Thomas Tank.
It's been
Hello.
quite a while since I joined one of these streams, and
Indeed,
we
you
know
have.
what today. We know what today is. Anniversary of the Titanic's unfortunate sinking.
111 years, I know. Basically, we've got one of my mates joining with me as well. Ryan is also making his debut as well, and you've just returned as well. So couldn't get any better. And I've got a stacked house. I can't put any more audio guys in now.
Mm-hmm. Unless you pay membership to invite more people, then yeah,
I'm not going to do that, mate. I'm not going to waste my
I
content.
wouldn't either.
I'm old
Yeah.
school. They should change it now to stop being a premium and you can invite more than you'd like. So instead of, they
Mhm.
should change the rules. Sorry that I had to get that out of the way. Anyways, getting back to what I was going to say was I found what it was in my fanfics on Titanic. I'm just going to share screen. I don't usually share my DA because of all the guys out there who do not like my content. You know, it goes way back to close to about, I would say, roughly for like the last 12 years or so. I get a lot of, you know,
Yeah. But I
Yeah.
definitely adored your Ghost Train, The Untold Story of Timothy. You nailed that character. Good.
to this very day, a lot of people who were 10 years ago are actually saying they grew up with it. They feel nostalgia. They still love it. And then there's one.
Ironically,
Yes.
I grew up with the
I-
whole thing too.
I know.
I
everybody-
remember seeing that in 2016.
Yeah. Well, everybody keeps
Hey.
replying back from 2015 to 14. I'm still getting people here who still remember. I'm like, holy crap, these guys still remember me from over a decade ago. I'm like,
Yes,
wow,
I still
none of us
remember.
forgot. I'm like,
None of
Jesus,
us
and I'm
forgot.
not even with the team. And I'm not even with the team guys who helped me make it anymore because of obvious reasons. But the thing is, and I'm just going to say this once and I'll leave it at that. Despite everybody gets praised, the guys who quoted and voiced with me a lot and everybody else who have been around, they don't get enough recognition that they so deserve. And I say this in my 311 film, which is where I get most of the 50-50 critics. I mean,
Mhm.
great cast. Everybody congratulates myself, Victor, Liz, and others. And of course, you know, Ms. Gell, who did the
Yeah, Liz
voice.
was a good addition. I loved her voice
Yeah.
performance.
Well, she was the first feminine female character to voice a female 311, so she
Oh, really?
revolutionized, right? But the other guys like Tank Engine 97, Enterprising Engine 93, Victor Tanzik, who was the last surprise, and Thomas White 203, they all get great credit. They all get the recognition they have always known. But the rest of the cast who have been with me, even in my Ghost Train thing with others who I can't mention for obvious reasons because of the risk of drama, quote unquote, basically they don't get the recognition that they deserve. And I just feel that's a real crying shame.
Yeah.
They were with me, they voiced me,
Like-
so I fell out with them. The thing is, though, they don't get enough recognition, and
Yeah.
I feel like nobody in the comments don't realize that. Even though some of them will say praise all to everybody, they don't point out the other guys who have voiced them. They only recognize certain people in there, and I feel like that's good and all, but the others, you know, who I can't say the names of, they deserve to be recognized as well, even a decade later. And I just feel like they've been forgotten, and I feel that's disappointing because they
regardless of who voiced the character, even if I know them or don't, they all did well many years later.
They
Despite
have,
the
but
things
they
that
haven't
some
been
of
the
them may
same
have
since I
done.
left.
I met
Despite-
Enterprising
yeah.
Engine 93 in person at the Greenberg train show last November.
Damn, you lucky SOB, man. I wish I could have met him because I liked him, man. There was nobody out there who could do Edward better than he could.
Yeah, I had 2 photos with him.
If I had met him, I would have had a mark out moment. I'm not lying. I'm not sure what he would say if he
Yeah,
met me.
and I think my best moment there was when I first met Rob and Jacob. Those 2 were gold.
Who were those guys? What are they known as?
Rob played as Mr. Conductor in the Magic Railroad parody, and Jacob was the guy responsible for work on the project for Project Tiger Moth, the good old days.
Oh man, that was a good project, Project Tiger Moth. Seeing the classics coming back, I really thought like someone had salvaged everything, and we were going to get a new for us fan guys in the fandom.
Yeah, I got to see those models in person, and
same here at Drayton Manor when I was up in England. I was honored to see that too. I did.
Yeah, that was a
good short. Just that mic's very loud.
That's all right. But by the way, fellas, I have like a model of like the Titanic that I still had ever since I was little. I probably got this thing around like 2014 or so, maybe 2016. I don't know when I got this thing. This thing may have lost a few parts, but still mostly intact. This being a mini, like, it's not the Lego Titanic. It's more of a different company brand, like, you know, more of the cheaper, smaller sets.
But looks like a 90s Lego Titanic.
Something similar that the Lost Blocks Thomas sets were. The Titanic was built out of, this Titanic was built out of something by a different company. I forgot what it was, but I like the model regardless.
I'm not going to lie, there's somebody else who I know who loves Titanic as well, and he was building models left, right, and center with his Thomas stuff, and he actually had models of trains, and he also has the battleships like Prince Eugen and Bismarck, whatever his name was.
Oh, yeah.
I know who it is. Somebody named, he likes trains and dogs, or whatever his name was, but he was good. I'm not joking. I'm still getting comments this very day. People love my Ghost Train stuff. Some of them who were there 10 years ago, who have grown up, they have come back to me and they say they still remember. And
I never forgot your voice role for Timothy.
Well,
but my question is, were you actually screaming to the mic for the jump scare moments?
No. I have to say this every single time. I was not screaming. That was somebody else doing it because that was from what was his name, Welsh and Colin, whatever his name was, who did like that teasing trailer of Timothy, and it looked like he did that trailer where Timothy's talking in the background, and then it just screams out, and I was like, perfect. That's definitely creepy pasta scream.
Yeah.
I can say now, whoever did Timothy scream for the trailers literally made my heart start.
Well, I was trying to make it loud.
Same.
Yeah, I was trying to make it loud enough so it could be tolerable for the hearing, but it could still jump, but it will be okay to still for your ears to hear.
Yeah, and
basically,
here's the funny thing,
not overly loud, but loud enough to be a little terrifying.
Yeah, and of course tolerable for your ears to hear.
And the funny thing, the face is actually a production joke. That face of Timothy is actually David Mitten's face. And imagine seeing that as the face of Timothy. Like, see Timothy as perspective of David Mitten, and how Britt Allcraft had the guts to file a lawsuit against David and his team for making tugs, all because like it was hilarious. That would.
I'm not gonna lie, but. You know, it was basically to show what an older Thomas would be had he aged, which was the main joke. And
the old man Thomas face is what it was named.
Basically,
by Jeremy King.
Whatever his name was, one of the users from the Thomas Iceberg series actually took the Timothy a clip of my film of it, and it said it's now been used as a famous OC. He only got 5 seconds of showing. I was like, well, at least somebody in the fandom recognized what I was doing.
Yeah.
But I'm not the people keep
Timothy?
asking me, do I own Timothy? I don't. All I did was I just repackaged him, gave him a backstory, and gave my own theory, and just expanded his character. And since then, people have recognized him. But there are others who do even better than I could. There are some who have done, like NWO 91, who basically did Thomas and Timothy, the repackaging, and now he's
Yeah.
more of a friendly ghost than a demon. And I've been repackaging him as a good guy who, spoiler alert, has the accident, but somehow he survived and he was knocked in a coma. He basically had the same incident. He killed off the old controller, but he doesn't die. But he comes close to.
Hmm.
And the only
Death
thing
battle. Who would win, Timothy or Clinchfield? The answer is
Oh Jesus! No, not
neither.
no, not the
I doubt they could
Oh.
fight because they're trains.
But they
Oh
can
my-
collision against each other. They can
Oh
derail
God,
each
not that
other.
slow moving train wreck thing.
Yeah.
Oh my God, no. Oh Jesus!
I don't think it was a train wreck. That engine you chose looked amazing. It kind of reminded me of that spooky train from Hey Arnold.
I remember seeing that. I'm glad you brought that up. I remember watching it once, and I've never seen it since.
Yeah. And I just like the backstory of how that train from Hey Arnold was just a steelworks train used to bring the workmen to the steelworks from the morning and then to the nighttime. And not to mention, I remember a guy who did a review on that episode made this silly comment that one of the steel workers had a chin who has the face of a testicle.
Jesus Christ!
Oh my god.
Oh jeez, I'm not gonna lie. Just hearing that just sounds hilariously funny. It may have been bad. It may have been some piece of work back then, but just hearing how you just pronounced it just makes it sound like it came out of a comedy book.
Yeah, but Hey
It's
Arnold does
true,
a great
dude.
job on covering dark stories, and it is why it is a classic '90s Nickelodeon show.
Definitely,
Yes.
he was. I mean, heck, I'm from the '90s anyway, but I remember seeing it that one time. And I was like, that was.
I never got to see the show until around 2016 or the year when its later released film, The Jungle movie, was released.
Hang on a second. I found what it was in my Titanic fanfic. I know we just that's kind of a quote unquote hop back in. I know we've lost topic again, but hey, it happens a lot when we talk about things that are intriguing. We tend to clash.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I
I
also
wanted to bring up Cool Fredbear's Timothy series.
Oh Lord. Oh yeah, Cole Fred. Oh yeah, that guy who I'm working with. The
Yeah, you voiced Timothy in episode 9.
Yes, I did. He basically brought me back in to voice as Timothy after a long absence. That's who I voice as for the time being until I can get myself back into voice dub. But I'm very limited nowadays.
Yeah.
I can still, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm very glad I know I can still do it.
Yeah,
Even though
especially how strict YouTube is with the stupid copyright thing. That's a
Oh, it's
little
not that. It's not that at all. It's basically the show itself, and
The-
of course the fan, which we don't want to talk about, and of course the current fandom itself.
Yeah, copyright. Yeah, the fan
not-
base.
It's actually the fandom that mostly does all the damage.
Although, realistically, what was expected from the YouTube system at this point? I mean, the Thomas brand has been marked as mainly seen for children, so whatever Thomas media they make, despite it being not for children, it's prone to be marked. Unless
That's
you say
because-
swear to keep your comments.
Yeah, it's for everybody. I mean, there are those who do like adult films that you might hear some slander of voicing, like the Soto Dark Times, and you hear those who like Victor Tanzik. has
Tobias
been,
and a
like,
Half Pariah. And
Victor Tanzik himself has been saying a few bits since he did the Soto at War, where he started swearing a little bit. Even in my versions, I'm hesitant because I would love to have done a series back in my prime. Since I'm an old school YouTube user, I want to, but I just haven't got the passion to do an editing on. Haven't got so that if I ever did, I wouldn't mind voicing for somebody to do that kind of thing. But at the same time, I don't want to push myself with the whole, because I want to keep my stories as innocent as possible, but aiming it for all audiences. Even if I do say a few slandered, if I did, you just have an infamous beeping sound to block it out. Like they used to be back in the 90s and early 2000s. But besides all that, at least on the DA stuff, I can write my fanfics that way or whatever. But speaking of fanfics, holy smokestacks, that's my trademark, what my OC says a lot. Yeah.
Holy funnels of Empress of Ireland.
Yeah, basically, holy
Sorry
smokes.
about
That's his trademark line, and my OC said a lot. It's hey there, Lucas. Nice to see you. Been a long while, my friend.
Lucas!
It's just gone 2 minutes past 11 o'clock. So we now that countdown's coming. We'll have to end it at some point because I'm watching the Titanic film right now. I'm trying to be in tune and sync with as we go along. That's why you can't hear anything at the
With
minute.
Leonardo DiCaprio.
No, I'm
DiCaprio.
basically I was watching that variation, but instead I'm watching A Night to Remember.
Don't watch the one with the rapper dog in animation.
Hey,
That
hey,
was
hey,
awful.
Oh, don't break that
Hey.
one.
That
We
was
don't-
junk.
No, but I will admit the Titanic model in there looks pretty impressive for an animation.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that CGI you just saw right there, that reminds me of how new modern day Pixar films would be like with how advanced the CGI animation can trick people to thinking it's in real life.
Don't get me wrong, but that's the good thing. If that's it, make it look like it's real, then that to me, that's what CGI is meant to do. It brings a realism effect, and sometimes there are also some times where you don't even realize it is CGI, and sometimes you have to blink again. Even I at times don't know what's real or not. If it's that good quality, and that's really good CGI.
I'll be right back.
Yeah,
All right.
you know what I'm saying? I mean, that's what CGI is about.
Yep.
Yeah, Glenn, I have to get back to work.
That's all right, Brian. But thanks for popping in when you could. It's
No
nice to see
problem.
you.
Thanks for having me.
Nice
That's
to meet
all right.
you.
Take care, man.
Take
Sure.
We
Sparkle,
still got plenty of time, guys, before we hit 11:40. I'll have to cut off by then at
Mhm.
that point because some of my mates are expecting me in a separate calling.
All right.
But we still have plenty of time, all right.
Before the stream does eventually depart, though, Glenn, there is a few like Hot Wheels collectibles I do want to showcase. Maybe on topic to what was being told now, but I want to bring in some things I eventually at one point got over the time. So one of
I
these
know it
items
was
too
short, but
would
I'm
be
back.
the Hot Wheels Santa sleigh. Bit of a cool
Looks
one
like a
too.
Star Trek vehicle.
It
I was
looks
just
like
gonna
it too.
say-
Not gonna lie.
It does. I was going to say, am I seeing a Star Trek Hot Wheel thing almost? Looks like Enterprise on wheels.
Yeah, my camera's a little blurry, but you can make out what it is.
It
I
looks
can
like
see
an
where-
amalgamation of Tron and Star
Yeah.
Trek.
Oh,
And another
God.
one too was one of the Batman Batmobiles, one of the
Yeah.
gray ones.
Batman, that's my man. That's the childhood I grew up with from the animated series, man.
Yeah.
Yes.
It just
This
brought
one's
that
one
back in
cool.
my store just down the road as well, so we're catching up.
Yeah.
And before the virus eventually struck the world, before it struck my region, I ended up getting Locomotor and Thomas.
Oh
Imagine
my
playing
dear.
that in a Hot Wheels Mario Kart Rainbow Road.
What the hell?
That'd be
No,
silly.
yeah,
Let me get my camera fixed up.
Wow, that's
That'd be
that's
silly.
huge words, man.
Yep.
Whoa.
A Hot
And
Wheels collab would be silly.
2023
I'm
was
literally
definitely the
picturing
year
that in
for
my head right
Mario.
now. Oh my
And following
God.
that too, I think this is the actual Locomotor, one of the X-Racers engines.
Jeez.
So that Thomas was basically a repaint mold.
I think. I don't know. They're released on the same
Wow.
year.
The face looks
But they're
the
both
face
cool.
definitely looks like it, but I don't think the rest of the body doesn't look like it's been repainted at all.
Yeah. Unironically, when Locomotor first released, apparently on the wiki source for that thing, where it originally came from, originally other engines were going to be released alongside with Thomas. But I think that has just become a big lie, and only Thomas was the one released in the bundle.
Indeed. Hey guys, I've got my share screen up here. This is my fanfic I was doing basically in the final moments of Titanic.
By the way,
which is-
Glenn Diego's wanted to ask you something, or was saying hello.
I can see him. I know. Hello, mate. We haven't got that much time left, but we still got enough to go. Anyways, as you can see in these shots here, this is like my reenactments. Like, that's supposed to be my OC, who you see right now.
Mhm.
Basically, the co-captain trying to save people to get in the boats. This is like what I would have done if I was there. There's my ex-girlfriend's OC, along with my other one over there as well, trying to survive. And as you can tell, it's basically like a Titanic live / anime story in a way.
Oh, yeah.
Which is
Yeah.
why my fanfics are definitely targeted to an older audience, but I keep it soft as possible.
Definitely
It's not-
doing a good job on trying to present yourself of how would you feel like if you were in that situation.
Yeah, as you can see, there's also blood and guts in this as well. Like I said before, like in anime, there's my character, but that's not me. There's me trying to row out. There's one of my OCs again. there's my ex-girlfriend's OC who's smashing one over the head because they're basically trying to get out there, you know.
Yep.
And then
I would be petrified in this situation. Realistically, I'd be
all
like,
of us would be. My OC is basically the co-captain of Titanic. He's basically got his basically that was his life jacket that Thomas Andrews gave him instead. And of course, he's just trying to get out there, and he's trying to save as much as he can. But this is when the fourth smokestack nearly got him, and they're all just like, I just had a lot of fun putting
the
this
big
together.
smokestack. That
Yeah,
thing
all the
collapsing
smokestacks
is seriously devastating. The
Oh, it
strings
was.
just pew, and the whole
Those
thing
sound
groans and
effects
grooves
you
to a
mentioned.
falling angle. Terrifying.
Yeah. Although in this one, Titanic did kind of quote unquote blow up a few times because the second smokestack was cracking up like it did in the deleted scenes, and then finally, boom, it would collapse out. And there's basically what I would vision Titanic in her last moments. And there's a hint from Raise the Titanic and the position it's in. You can also see the flag unfurls itself just before going under Bigelow, who Guinness played in the film, would actually save it. If that's all connecting in the events.
Wow.
That's basically her final moment. She doesn't. She almost goes up like in the movie, like a nearly vertical position, but basically holds on. Just as for how Captain Smith died, it's just like in the movie, but more
The
dramatic.
glass imploded under the pressure.
Basically, that's how he died in my opinion, in reality. Not like how we see in the animations lately. I just feel that's where he did die. But in my version, his body got killed off, but his soul had been survived because a certain you-know-who basically quote-unquote saved his soul from being destroyed. Okay, I'm just skipping it down here.
Huh.
That's the bit where my OC sees where the war's coming up, and that's when all chaos ensues. There it is. Spoiler alert. That's how Smith dies, but look who saves his soul at the last minute.
Amazing.
It's basically Titanic herself, even though she's not dead yet. She's basically reaching out to grab his soul, and eventually that's it. And he basically becomes, like they do in Star Wars, not a Force ghost, but he becomes quote-unquote a ghost. But when you'd see him, it's like he never died.
As if he's still around physically or such a way.
In a way, yes, he's dead, but his spirit has taken on the form of like what we would be to if we would see a supernatural. Basically, it's because Titanic has done that to him, and she even did that to Thomas Andrews. You just don't see that happen. So she basically preserved their souls, but she couldn't do it to everybody else. She only could do it to those that she felt that needed to. That's why to this very day,
in a way, who were worthy of getting a second chance.
Yeah, basically, after Titanic, quote unquote, was raised, basically, the modern day people, when it's been preserved, don't even notice. They have no idea. They can't. The thing is, they can't see them, but my OC and theirs can because they're immortals. They've passed their, because Titanic basically immortalized those that she could. Hang on now, where's it gone?
And since we're on the topic of Titanic, I want to mention a few movies that I have seen when I was little that apparently were the quote-unquote continuations of the story's trilogy. I'm pretty sure you know what I'm talking about. A movie company, The Asylum, infamous for making rip-offs of, like, low-budget rip-offs of other films, and one of these was infamously Titanic 2.
Yeah,
and apparently,
Listen,
and recently...
I have that on DVD, still had that recorded. Just look, I'm a Titanic mark. It had the Queen Mary in it, because that's
it is one big flop. It's so weird. The Queen Mary 2 was used for the filming, but then moments later, CGI Titanic, which looks beyond big, I think.
Listen, Queen Mary's 100 feet longer than the Titanic, but the thing is, I didn't care about the CGI switching over. I was just like, being me. Even to this day, I like it because I liked it because I like the CGI effects, and I like the guy who played the captain of Titanic 2, who was the inspiration of my OC's creation. The guy who played him is
Captain Will Howard, who was the captain of the boat.
Yeah, basically the actor who played him is DC Douglas. He's actually an anime actor apparently, and the way he looked was just perfect. Like, he's basically the reason why I made my OC was because of him. He has no idea of that. And he's
Yeah.
now the reason. Now, before I go back to Titanic again, he's also the main reason. The way how he looks is how I vision, myself would have been. But here's a catch: he's also portrayed the same way in my Azure Lane series. If you go on my DA, he also quote unquote plays the role of the quote unquote the commander in the video game. That's us players, and that's how I vision him to be as well. I don't know why. I just have a thing for him playing like he fits the role of how I vision him to look. A young man, short hair, with a ghost and gingery beard or whatever. That's just me.
Huh. And since I was on the topic of the Asylum's Titanic 2, they actually at one point tried to make a horror movie of the Titanic, which was Titanic 666.
And I actually
the
had
number.
Jesus Christ! What the?
I won't say the
I once
devil's
had a
number for a good
cross-country
reason.
name.
Because if there's some people who don't want to hear any word of Satan or any other thing like that, I won't say the number in fully.
Yeah,
It doesn't matter. Look,
yeah.
it's better than calling it Titanic 3. Let's just be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I like the
Of
idea.
course,
I kind of found the plot. I found the plot interesting in the movie. Like,
I
the ship
did
is
too.
once more
How-
rebuilt. But what's weird, Titanic 2's existence isn't even mentioned.
But then again, seeing Titanic 2 and Titanic 3 and this other one, CGIs did their job. They looked as realistic as ever. And I have to say, it's funny how I do feel that Titanic, quote unquote, I'll just say it in my version. Titanic 3, instead of saying the 666, let's just say, for obvious reasons, the CGIs looked even slightly real. But I like the fact of trying to make it realistically like a horror type of thing, like supernaturally. That was refreshing. And I like the fact that we had a ghost of Captain Smith. I was like, intriguing. I was like,
The fact that there was an
unusual
unusual woman on the ship who summons the crew of the boat, taking the lives of those who ride aboard the vessel that shouldn't be revived.
Yeah,
Right.
but I have found out about this because some guys were telling me, "Have you seen this film?" And they gave me the link to it, and they gave me a plot line like, "What if Titanic Spirit in my fanfic would do this?" And she has to battle, or whatever this user was saying, gave me a good idea.
Yeah.
And I've seen it a few times. Despite I'm not really a big fan of the casting, I do like the idea of what they were trying to do. And when they were going through the ice fields before the whole collision, that to me I thought was really clever. And I was thinking, my Titanic being restored in a way, does tend to have these kind of like near history repeats, as if Mother Nature's trying to reclaim it back. But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
All right. Well,
And
it was
two more
nice chatting with
things.
you guys. I have to go now for dinner time.
Okay, Ryan.
I'm here. Thanks for
Take care then,
inviting me, Fan 701. It was
That's
nice talking
fine.
with you guys.
Come back anytime you like to, Ryan. I'll be free when I can. Okay,
I'll make sure to keep up to date with your future streams.
that's
This
fine,
is
mate.
Mr. Conductor saying "Sparkle, sparkle."
Yeah. Peep, peep. Yes, indeed. Sparkle, sparkle. And-
Phase.
that never gets old. That never gets old. Even this very day. Where is it? Oh, here we go. I found it. Here's the other thing I'm going to show you.
All right. Whilst
we
you're
got
displaying
people-
that, I want to recall something that actually would happen IRL, which I don't know if it's still going, but as far as I know, I have heard from some sources, and I think this may be false, or probably still in the works, or planned by government decisions. Titanic 2, or the next Titanic, could be built IRL. I have no idea if it's true, but if it was, would you sail it on it or not, just in case?
Look, man, to be quite honest, a replica of Titanic needs to happen. It's basically the only this is how I've been saying it with Claire Palmer's Titanic and the other version that we're seeing. But if they do make another variation of Titanic, regardless of how many replicas they will do, this to me is the ultimate tribute, and basically, it's basically the only quote unquote happy ending for the ship itself. Because this is what I like to look at it as. It's just, even though it's not the original Titanic, I just like to see
it's more of an
as,
ancestor, a rebirth, a new vessel for her to take on.
It's a rebirth, but I like to say it's basically Titanic, but in a new body. Basically, it's the same.
True.
It's basically the same body, not quite the same, but it has the soul of the original. Like, basically has woken up, been reincarnated. It's basically, that's what I like to see it as. It's basically Titanic lost its original body, and now here it is in a new form.
if
So I do
anything,
believe
if the
it's basically
Titanic
happy
2...
ending in the
Oh, wait.
boys.
So,
Yeah,
like, when it comes to the second boat, if it was going to be really built, there are some changes to keep up with the modern day world. I feel like the second Titanic, if it was a real boat, would probably have the old school furnishings while keeping some of the modern day esque, interior of some structures. And if anything, the boat could probably come built in with an internet connection if they were to do one, let alone streaming, let alone televisions and cables to stream movies while you're sailing.
Oh, yes, definitely. But the thing is, they'll have to have a modern deck so you can find modern days in our time, or if you want to say locked in time, or basically I could definitely see the bridge looking more modern, definitely, and having modern lifeboats. But I do feel like Titanic would look more like old looking on the outside, where the interiors would definitely be more
Yes.
modern day style. That's the only way this is going to, and instead of having the ship being divided for first and second class, they can still keep them separate, but they can actually have the free will to stroll around any deck they want to go before going back. But like we saw on cruise
True.
ships, they can go anywhere they like to. They don't have to be divided. They can have,
Yes.
but they
Separate
still
classes,
have,
but freedom to go anywhere.
but the experience of Titanic would be exactly the same. Like you'd have the same food that was delivered to them. You'd be treated like, and they could wear the same costumes as the passengers would to feel like you are back in time, and and the crew can wear the same stuff. Like then
True.
the stewardess and the maids can wear what they had back in there. That would be the fun thing to do. But to me, this would only have to happen during the anniversary, where it's on different cruises days, whether it's on Christmas tours or if it was done elsewhere. Like, you know what I mean? In different days, it can be just a normal thing.
True.
But only in April do they revert back to the old ways.
It's like taking a time machine, either the TARDIS police box or the Back to the Future DeLorean, regardless of what machine you want to use, or any gadget that, somehow you would have actually owned, regardless of the machine or time thing used, going back to, it's like you just travel back in time and are riding the Titanic for the first time.
That's basically it. It's basically our time. It's basically what they couldn't do. It's basically our time to step on Titanic, and basically after so long, should basically, what's the word I'm looking for? Should correct a wrong that needed to be righted. Basically basically reverse the transcendence of history and bring the happy ending that they should have had. It's basically putting all those souls to rest, even those who have long since been long gone. They need basically, in my opinion, a replica of Titanic and doing the whole journey from getting there to New York and back is the only way, in my opinion, to bring
what was
this
a
long
tragic
story
event to a happy close.
Yeah, basically to give closure on those people. Basically, the Titanic needs to have a happy ending that it needs to have, but also beginning a new story. Like,
True.
It's basically finishing that final chapter in the book that was never written. That's how I look at this whole thing. It needs to have an ending.
But if we're talking about like how the Titanic would work in the modern day world being rebuilt, I feel like if they were prepared for icebergs still, they probably upgrade the strength of the body, depending on the angle where it gets hit. And to probably counteract strong sea waves, a bulbous bow would probably be added on the front to counteract the waving and toppling.
Well, that is the usual modern day. They would have to have a bulbous bow. They would even need it would. Basically, under the waterline, Titanic would have what you would see on cruise vessels anyway. It would basically look basically the same above the waterline, but underneath. Yeah, that's where
with some upgrades.
You wouldn't notice underneath. It would be just like seeing. That's basically what Clive Palmer's Titanic would look like anyway. Anyways, back to what I was going to show you. We're nearly running out of time. I've only got 20 to 15 minutes left before I have to hitchhike.
Here you go. Glenn's going to add in if he wants to, right? Because the stream's almost over.
We have basically been on for, we've hit over 2 hours and 4 minutes in, so that's good. We almost made it. We almost beat the timeline syncing on my thing here. But this is where, basically Titanic's human form in my anime redubbing would be. This is what that's what Second Officer Lifestyle looked like in A Night to Remember, instead of using the 97 one. So I did a mashup of all the movies. This here, basically, here we are.
If the
And there is-
Titanic essentially has a spirit, like has a human look, I think
Yeah.
I like to believe it's the ship's internal spirit,
That it
the
is.
blessing that this thing has been given.
Basically, she got released from her shell. No one sees it. It just no one got to see it happen. But basically, she got pulled out of her shell way too early before her ship even went down. Basically, this here is her saving my OC. This is all the glowing she's giving. She's basically a ghost. Only he can see her though, because, well, obviously he's close to death anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is when they go back. There's my OCs. These are Japanese characters. They're twins. They're going back to look to the guys who survived. But my timeline is a little different, if you know what I'm saying, because Jack and Rose had already gotten off the vessel.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's not quite the same as it is in the actual film. And Callan is
Essentially, it's like an alternate world of events.
yeah, it's basically my Titanic retelling is basically a hybrid of 3 films with the others sliced in, just with the timeline a little different. And of course, Cal and his bodyguard, Lovejoy, are already dead because my OC killed them off. Or you could say, spoiler alert, Titanic killed Cal when her second smokestack fell off. Yeah, I know.
Dang.
Basically, almost killing her captain in the process. But anyways, her voice is what we hear a few times talking to him. Only he can hear it. Again, it's anime related. And this is the last I'll see each other until we make it to the Cold War era, where Raise the Titanic comes in. That's basically going to be where the whole bizarre love comes in. And this is where a lot of people give me a lot of hate for this, you know, because, yeah, they hate it. They absolutely hate that. No matter what you say, that there is basically... This is basically the origin story of Titanic on my OC, how they, how it was built and how my character came into be.
What the hell? Oh, got stuck.
And this is basically, that's what happens afterwards when my OC's demon all comes in. And then there's the fanfic.
Interesting.
Because by that time, Titanic has been resailing for a long time since being restored.
But what's one interesting piece of trivia when it came to the Titanic raising in the Titanic movie? At the time, the ship was basically thought to be in one piece when it sunk. So the boat was just brought back up in one singular unit.
In mine, though, if you read the novel, she took more of a battered beating. Like, she lost her mast and her stacks and everything else, whereas in this one, she just lost a few bits, including her stack. And in mine, as you just saw, she is basically a hybrid.
True.
Here we go. I'll do it again. Hang on. That's basically now. This is basically in this timeline now. Like 111 years later, the two lovers are still together. They're basically immortal. You know?
Yeah. The ship may be physically gone, but spiritually it exists. But only those who see it know it.
No, in this, Titanic is actually restored. Her entire ship had been restored back, and this is now like in the alternative if she had been salvaged. That's her today as we speak at this very moment. Okay, let me go down and where is she? Oh, there she is. This is what she looks like in my version when she was salvaged. What's left of it.
Whoa.
Yep, in the same spot where she sank. It's just like in the movie, she came out bow first, but more dramatic. She still she had left of her stack, which is what killed Cal, and then her forward stack had been gone, and and her full stack still stands in its mouth along with the aft mast.
But I wonder,
so yeah,
if the ship splits in, did the ship still split in half in this world, or was it just put back together for the re-rising?
Basically, what happened was that in the film, in my fanfic, she almost snapped her back. Like, she was literally hanging on by a thread. She still had a 45. She was almost vertical, but she eventually went steep at 45 degrees, like we saw in A Night to Remember almost. And then basically when discovered, it turns out that her aft expansion joint nearly opened up. But somehow during the long descent, during the 2.5 mile descent or whatever it was.
Into the depths,
into the black abyss in the Great Banks, she still held on, but somehow almost snapped her back again. So she was still able to hold on. Although, when discovered, it's revealed she had taken a violent beating down, legitimately, and when you read it in the fanfic, she had hang on, let me actually find it here. I know it's in there somewhere actually. It describes what she looks like when she's discovered. Okay, let me find okay, here's some of the screen caps that were shot from it. That's what the salvages. There's Dirk Pitt from the film. There's Admiral Sandegar from Sahara, the film, what he looks like. There's Al Giordino, Dirk Pitt's good buddy. There's Seagram, and that's supposed to be Rudy. They're on board the Titanic in my fanfic, as I vision to be. Okay.
I like that.
Yeah, because it's like a combined of Sahara and raised
But
Titanic.
since we're on the topic of the Titanic being risen back up, what's saddening about the boat underwater right now is that underwater bacteria is eating away at the ship.
Well, ironically enough, Titanic in this shows early signs of this, but she's still in good condition. And that's why they, in mine, she's found a little early. She still has her paint still there, but she is showing signs
of being, underwater corrosion.
Yeah, she's suffered little corrosion, but she's still in the early stages. She still looks pretty roughly sound. You know what I mean? So she's still
intact, basically still alive, but with scars.
Basically, bearing the scars of her human tragedy. Where is it now? I know it's here somewhere. I've just got to find it first when she's discovered. It's in here. It was one of the best I ever wrote down. Turn of Titanic or Supernatural. Because unlike in the actual film, in my version, Titanic is discovered, and then before they raise it, they bring in the expeditions to basically do a documentary on it and basically investigate her sinking before they can even process the whole salvation. They have to understand what caused it to sink, like we've done in reality.
What caused her to go down, and
what caused her to do this? Yeah, what caused this to happen? What happened during the descent and whatnot? Yeah, they basically have to do that first before they're basically giving her almost an autopsy before they can consider her. That's the whole idea.
Yes.
There it is. Is this the one? Oh no! Sorry, wrong page. This is after. There it is. Chapter 9. This is basically when they did find Titanic. It's basically like in the movie, but much more dramatic. And when she's discovered, we get that classic bow shot when it comes out of the surface, like we saw in the real world. Yeah, it's like as if it really did happen. Hang on.
So if she's being risen right out of the water, does it go the same way as the movie, or does it give more different way on how it's proposed out of the ocean?
You mean like in the book, in Clive Cussler's novel, she came out stern first?
Oh yeah, essentially a reverse way of it going down.
Yeah, that was good in the fan, but in mine, coming out in the movie, Battle First was even better. Mine's just a little bit more dramatic, just like in the fanfic, but Battle First, I'm more dramatic. And I've got 10, and oh my god, it's now 11:30. We have 10 minutes to go.
If you want to, you can prepare yourself a little early, and
I am. We're almost done now. I'm just trying to find it. Here we go. There it is. That's the actual, again, using the real depth, like Titanic sank in 12,460 feet of water. Just like in reality, that's the exact depth she lays at. Here it is. This is the discovery of when Titanic is discovered. Gives you an idea of what she looks like. Oh.
Still mostly clean, but with some scars of ocean corrosion going through.
You're still reading, aren't you? It even reveals where her slight list, when she's lying, even reveals her cut wound where the iceberg had torn into her.
Oh, so specifically, if the Titanic got the bow torn by the ice, where would that specifically be in her human spirit?
That would be, basically, it does get revealed later on when she does, in anime, it's fan service related. She reveals where it is. It's just right next to her belly on the right side.
Oh yeah, somewhere around like the waist or the chest.
Close to it, yeah, very close to it.
Essentially
No,
a near fatal wound.
yeah, but nowhere near where the heart would be. It's basically right where the lower guts would be.
Oh yeah,
Even
in between the intestines and the ribcage, if I'm correct.
close, even lower, almost lower to the hip almost. It's right here.
Oh, near the.
It even shows.
Oh yeah,
Again,
somewhere near the pelvis.
yeah, that's where it would be. It's right where the and it even shows that she even had, more holes in her body as well, where the boilers smashed through her, like they saw in the. This was again in part of the 1985 theory. So all her boilers had torn through her as well. And yeah, my version of Titanic took a vile beating after going under the water.
Ooh.
As you can see here, if you can read here it more, it shows just what's really happened to her.
My God.
Yeah, how she would look like if she had gone down in one piece. Her forward mast had still stood, just barely tilting back. Well, the second one still pointed upwards, and of course, as you can see, she nearly split her back, where the aft joint nearly opened up.
Oh.
There it go. There's your answer right there.
For an anime-based fan fiction about the Titanic surviving mostly this stuff, it's just baffling.
Yeah.
Like I knew specifically when it came to people doing humanized versions of characters, it was done in a way that felt a little off. But with the Titanic, she's been separated from her boat body, and whatever wounds whatever damage the boat picked up, it came onto the human vessel too.
Basically, she was in her. Basically, to sum it all up, she was in her human shell when this all happened. So, any part of her body, you would feel like if you're on the stern, she'd feel it, or if you're on the bow, she would feel it. If you're shoveling coal or anything else, she'll just feel anything, no matter what variation you touch of the vessel. That's just how it was. Anyways, you can tell that her stern had suffered a little damage as well, so it didn't implode.
If I'm correct, the stern would be her back.
That's
like her
basically
human shell back.
No, basically the stern is basically her rear end and her two legs.
I'm not going to say anything further.
That's all. That's the best way. That's the best thing I can say it for you, mate.
Mm-hmm.
But despite all that, she was still in, pretty good. She was, and at this time, her spirit had woken up. They couldn't see her, but she could see them.
Mm-hmm.
She basically could see them, but they couldn't. And that's when she could sense Myosi's presence, basically fulfilling the promise, saying that in time you will come back to me and I'll be waiting. And basically that's the beginning of their strange love that they had for each other. It's a really good story. It's kind of like a Romeo and Juliet / Beauty and the Beast type of story, but much deeper.
Then again, when it came to stories like that, regardless of people say, "Oh, this is horrible," it gets cringe. Like the thing is, the real cringe is
everyone says that about my Titanic to this day. For those who don't like me still, who refuse
it's
to
understandable.
accept
But then again, to me, the real cringe is basically getting mad at people for being themselves, writing what they wanted to.
They basically
creating
don't
stories, making many characters.
Yes, indeed.
Anyway, since the movie's going to be starting for you very soon, I shall take my leave.
Hey, Thomas Tank, you can come back afterwards because I'm actually planning to do a post-Titanic stream in a couple of days. And I'll be back wearing this afterwards and we can continue with this afterwards because I really enjoyed this conversation that we had.
Yeah. If I am free, I might be able to return.
I will. Take care, mate. And
take care, man.
As Titanic would say, may your heart live on for eternity. Smooth sailing, everyone.
You too, Glenn.
Yeah, I'll let you go as well, man. So I got to wrap this one up.
All right.
For that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you've enjoyed this streaming. It's been an off and up topic on Titanic, but I will be planning to do a post stream on this anniversary in a few days. But I would like to thank you very much for tuning in and taking your time. And with that being said, this is Captain Kane Fan 701. in memory of the RMS Titanic, who sank 111 years ago on this very night. God bless her, and God bless those who had perished, and the survivors. And may we forever continue to remember and honor her name for what she was to be.
Yes.
This is Captain Kane Fan 701, signing out.